The only constant is change. And entrepreneurship, like if you're not realizing that and you're not here for the long game, it's going to be really painful because the only constant is change. So when the market just changed again, you have to be able to be agile and flexible to that and not be so precious about whatever you created 2 years ago because it doesn't align anymore, it doesn't sell anymore, whatever the case is. Hello, you beautiful souls. Consider yourself very, very lucky because today I have a magical, magical woman who I know so deeply. I'm like refraining from telling you all the things because I want her to talk about herself. But let's just say she went from doing all the right things to evolving so many identities, becoming a cultural authority who now shapes conversations in her industry. And none of that happened through a strategic blueprint. It happened through her devotion to her becoming process. The one and only Gaby Abrams is a six-figure founder, trained and certified in hypnotherapy, and the creator of subconscious marketing and the viral honeypot post method. Her work helps leaders understand the invisible beliefs, patterns, and signals that cap their income and influence and shows them how to become the kind of brand people remember, trust, and buy from and buy into instantly. Welcome to the stage, Gaby Abrams.
Hello, I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you, thank you. And not only is Gaby all the things I said, but I feel super honored. Gaby has been a long-term client turned soul friend, I think since 2020.
2020.
Is when our union started. So before that glorious day where the universe brought us together, what was happening for you behind the scenes and how you were showing up in life and in business?
Yeah, I feel like you caught me at one of my first sort of entrepreneurial evolutions. So I've been a lawyer before, and then I had, stopped practicing, started a business when I had my first son at a stationery and design business. And I did that for 5 years, grew to six figures. And then I started feeling that itch for more. Right? Like, what if I have more to share, I think was the biggest thing. And I wanted to share, more about entrepreneurship and the lessons that I had learned starting my first business, growing to six figures. I got certified in rapid transformational therapy. And I was like, I'm going to do this, and then I felt so scared, so stuck. And at the same time, it's like the universe opened, COVID happened, and like the event industry went, completely collapsed, right? Like completely unexpectedly. And I was like, now is the time. Now is the time to do this. I'm never going to have this opportunity ever again. And I remember feeling like, okay, I'm going to go all in. And it was right at that moment that I found you. And I can't even remember how it happened. It was on Facebook because at that point we were all on Facebook, and you were running your challenge. It was the 7-day elevation elevation.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
And I was like, I'm going to sign up for this. I'm going to do this. But first I had seen your website and I loved it. And I think I actually found you, or what intrigued me was rapid transformational therapy. I felt like nobody was doing it like you. Like you were so high energy and you were so action focused, and like you just went to your page and you felt this sense of like movement and momentum, and it was like healing, but it was so forward focused. And I was like, all right, I'm plugging into this. I am plugging into this. And I joined that experience. It was amazing. And then ended up doing, I think it was one of the first rounds of Mind Magic, not the first, but one of the first, and just meeting so many incredible people in there.
Yes, I remember that. I remember there was a moment on one of the live hot seat calls, and it's like my memory, I can see like the Brady Bunch boxes, and we had like a coaching moment. And I remember meeting you and your energy, right? And just how magnetic and vivacious you were. And I feel honored because I am part of your ripple effect, because we unlock something. And it has continued this gorgeous evolution of yours. It just doesn't stop, right? Because you get it. We're always evolving, right? Like we're not like going to be done. So that just came through. I remember that moment in time.
And actually, you know what's funny? I have that call on video for some reason. I think on my phone or somewhere, and I've rewatched it periodically. And I still remember what I asked you. I don't know if you remember.
No, tell us.
Okay. And I'm going to say it because there's somebody out there who is wondering the same thing and is sitting there And it's funny because then you're kind of removed from that and you're like, but you feel it we'll talk about that. We'll talk about like the layers of evolution. But I remember my question was, what what do you do when you feel like how can you stand out was what was my question, right? How can you like make your presence sort of felt when you aren't sure what you want to do or something along those lines, right? But I remember the core feeling was just feeling like, am I ever going to be seen the way that I want to be seen? Am I ever going to be like experienced the way that I want to be experienced? Or am I just going to be in this state of like hiding forever?
Mm. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I remember your sort of coaching and I was just like, it was just what I needed to hear,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it was such an unlock because you are so shiny and so, and there's always layers to visibility. Like you were saying about layers, right?
Right.
We get to the one layer and we evolve and then we see with new eyes, we hear with new ears, we're operating from our next level. And then there's another level in terms of moving from like hiding to really not just
Hmm.
being looked at, but feeling safe being seen and heard.
Yes.
Right. And so talk me through what was your journey like, that evolution of going from that girl who is like, am I ever going to be seen to
Mm-mm.
you're very seen.
I think for me, the biggest thing, and I think that that's why I say that it was like so memorable when I came to your website because you really were doing stuff like so in your own way. And I think it was that permission to be like, you can be a coach and it doesn't have to look like this. And you can be a healer and it doesn't have to look like this. And you can be an entrepreneur and like this badass businesswoman. And, we're both like data girlies. And, like you can be this like strategy person too. And it doesn't have to look that way either. And I think it really gave me permission to sort of carve out my own space in this world and this industry and in the work that we do. And I think that that's really what changed things for me is that I gave myself permission to kind of show up in my own way and fit the niche that only like is that category of one space that it's like the niche is you,
Yeah.
right? The niche is you doing it your way, you bringing what you bring to the table, you know, shaping lives in the way that only you can.
Yes. And this is just gorgeous because if you notice, Gabby didn't say it was this strategic formula,
Mhm.
right? What you're saying is the category of one, everyone has the codes to be
Yeah,
a category of one
yeah,
because there's only one of each of us. And
yeah,
the question really becomes, are you willing
yeah,
to be uncomfortable, to then evolve, to
yeah.
own and claim the shit out of your category of oneness,
Yes,
right?
yes,
And
yes.
so, like, some of it is permission of watching it, like mirror
Hmm.
neurons. You watch me and you're like, cool, she's doing it. I could do it.
Hmm.
Yes.
Yeah,
But like, what else comes through when I say that?
yeah. And I think like what you learn, right, is that so often you think that that's going to be more. And especially as you start evolving and especially as you have success or had success and what you realize is that like every single like up level is not more, it's less. It's like stripping
Yes.
away more. It's more simple. It's less of like whatever you're carrying, right? Whatever costume, whatever like stuff that you've learned that you feel like you needed, right? You let it go. All of these like identity security blankets. And so it's funny because it's like so often, and I don't know about you, but every time that I hit that point where I'm like, all right, I'm ready for like the next, it's like you kind of get to that point where it's like you max out, right? Where you are and you're like, all right, this feels really good, but like there's something else. There's something more. And the human, like the very, very human inclination is to think of more as like, all right, more money or more this or more that. And it's always just stripping away to more simplicity
Mm. Yes.
and more clarity
Yes.
of who you are and what you're here to do.
Yes. I love this because it's also like the story about the golden Buddha, like the Buddha that was covered in piles and piles and piles and piles of mud, and nobody knew there was a golden Buddha on the inside,
Mm.
right? And then somebody started chipping away at this mud because they saw like a crack and there was just like a little fleck of gold, like gold foil. And then they pulled the mud back and they pulled the mud back, and there was this like 24 karat golden Buddha just sitting there.
Yeah.
And what you're saying is so vital because it also hits on like what the School of Becoming is here for.
Mm-hmm.
Becoming isn't more, it's a remembrance.
Yes.
It's the unbecoming. It's the pulling
Mm-hmm.
off of the layers and all of the shit that covered you
Mm-hmm.
up so you can remember the truth of the star seed, the wholeness, and
Mm-hmm.
also a super fun creative process of I don't know who do
Yes.
I want to be, right? Like
Yeah.
how does she walk? How does she
Right.
train a room, you know? So I think
Right.
it's a both and kind of thing. And that just lights me up.
Because it is a learning process,
Yeah.
right? Of like, even though it's you, and even though you've known this person, because it's like your soul voice doesn't change. You're born with that voice since you're a little kid,
Yeah.
right? And the truth is that the more you sort of expand, the more you regress into what you saw as possible and desired as a child, right? For the most part. And so it's funny, but it's like you've never walked as that version of you. So
Mhm.
there is so much learning and there is so much of like, how does she walk? How does she move? What does she wear? What would she do? What would she say? What would, all
Yes,
those things.
yes. And that's the fun part of
Mm-hmm.
being conscious, being a
Yeah.
conscious woman and being committed to growth and evolution because you
Yeah.
understand that's the game, right?
Yeah.
Not because there's anything ever to be fixed, not because
Yeah.
we're working to solve a problem, but you
Right.
get the divine assignment. Like you are a
Mm-hmm.
soul in a meat suit. And there are
Mm-hmm.
objectives here, and there's a journey. And I think for
Yeah.
entrepreneurs, especially, we're
Yeah.
learning the journey because we unconsciously chose entrepreneurship as the
Yep.
medium,
Yeah.
right? And it's like, oh, well, look at this and look at this. So,
Yeah.
and I know we share in this because we love the subconscious so much and we love the
Yeah.
quantum so much and we geek out on it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious, as you've evolved, and you and I talk about this, like as you evolve internally, the way you deliver your work, the work that comes through you, must evolve in alignment with your own evolution as Gaby Abrams.
Yeah.
So what has that been like for you? I say recently, however, whatever that time frame is for you. What has that evolution felt like internally? And then what is coming through you now that's in alignment with that level?
Yeah, I think that that's really the part where you start, and people don't really talk about this because even in the space of entrepreneurship, this is really where you start bumping up against what society tells you it's supposed to look like and what it actually looks and feels like, because even in the world of entrepreneurship, there's funnels and there's strategy and there's this idea that like there's a destination, right? There's a destination that's a great selling program that then you run ads to and it fills up automatically and then you set it and forget it and you never work again. And then like you're just happy and rich forever and you're, 40, right? And it's like
Yeah.
it doesn't work that way. Like it would be so, I mean, that's the dream that they're selling you, right? But it does not work that way. And and I think that that's the hardest part because entrepreneurship is really about letting go of a lot of the things that you love and that you loved to make space for other things or to let them become other things. I mean, like pun intended, pun unintended.
Yeah.
But we'll have it. It works to have it become other things. And I think that that is like the hardest part of entrepreneurship, right? Because every time that you sort of feel that evolution, it's because what once felt like a whole version of you, what once felt like this is all of me and this feels amazing, starts to feel fragmented. And
Mm,
it starts to feel like that's like maybe that's a part of me and that's another part of me, right? But there's like a wholeness that's trying to be birthed through and
mm,
you just have to honor that. And so for me, that journey looked like, having been a lawyer and then starting in design. I didn't want anybody to know I had been a lawyer because I somehow felt like that, like then that exposed me as a design fraud, right? I was like doing invitations, but I was like, then everyone's going to know that I don't have like a design degree and I'm doing this in Photoshop and not whatever other fancy Adobe program there is. And I had all kinds of like that conversation going on, and I really wanted to hide that. And I have so many clients who are, amazing, incredible, have had these amazing, incredible professional experiences. They're therapists, they're doctors, they're lawyers, and they don't want anybody to know about that.
mm.
Right. Because it's like, it's so funny how our brain tricks us into thinking that, like, to be the version of us that we want to be, it has to look a certain way, right? It has to come with certain qualifications and, you
Mhm.
know, and so when I had that business, I was like, I don't want to talk about this. I don't want anybody to know. I want them to think that I'm like a very amazing designer, And then when I evolved into this next business, it was really like a lot of, I think for me, the hardest part was like, okay, like, is it healing? Is it entrepreneurship? Is it money mindset? Is it, and how do all those pieces sort of fit together? Because they're all really me. And I think that that each different stage has been just a different evolution of that, right?
Hmm.
Because it's always going to be the things that make you you are always going to make you you. They're
Hmm.
just going to look different or present different or, be simpler, like we talked about,
Yeah,
right?
but and reflect the evolved versions of you, right? Like
Right.
I know sitting here as the multifaceted role I get to play, you on that first call in the elevation experience to you going through the, neuro identity evolution journey, which was mind magic back then, but now it's becoming,
Hmm.
to even the work we did privately, to then when I saw you recently when we had lunch with your gorgeous, delicious baby, like your evolution is evident
Yeah.
energetically, visibly, right? And in how you are showing up in the expression of who
Yeah.
you are. Do you feel that?
Yeah. And another thing that I would like, evolution doesn't exist in a vacuum.
Right.
We evolve along with the world. We evolve along with the collective. And I think that that's a conversation that always frustrates me in entrepreneurship too, because we almost don't want to allow that to happen because I don't know if it's like a loss of control thing,
Mm,
right? But it's like what worked 5 years ago, something different is necessary now. Like the culture moves, culture evolves, the way that we
mhm,
buy, the way that we sell, the way that we,
mhm.
you know, create content, everything has
Yeah.
changed so much since 2020.
Yeah.
And and so we don't just exist in a vacuum, right? We're also always, and this is like something that like for me is so central to what I do. It's like maintaining that core of who you do, but also allowing that fluid edge of cultural evolution in
Mm,
your work. Because
mm,
it's like you can't go with every single trend, but at the same time, when things change, you have to respond to it. And I
yes.
don't know if you've read, I mean, you know that you and I can geek out on like
Yeah.
quantum stuff. But biology of belief, right, where he talks about like our cellular membrane really is our intelligence. Like our intelligence is our ability to respond to what's going on outside of us.
Hmm.
Like, yes, it's us. And yes, it's, this like nuclear cellular unit, right? But it's also about our ability to interact with the world outside of us and how we choose to do so and who we choose to collaborate with and what we choose to engage with. That's really like the peak of human intelligence.
Hmm. Hmm. Yes. And that is so based on my like take on that is, and that happens in its highest efficacy when you are grounded in your
Hmm.
body and regulated in yourself,
Hmm.
because there's no ability to respond when you aren't present,
Yeah.
right? And that
Yeah.
to me is like the secret sauce of all the
Yes.
work. Like if we know the present moment is what there is, and when you
Hmm.
can be present and be where your feet are and not be
Yeah.
back there and not be up there, then you're able to show up to what
Hmm.
happens in the world. And to the point of what you're saying, the only constant is change.
Yeah.
And entrepreneurship, like if you're not realizing that and you're not here for the long game, it's going to be
Yeah.
really painful,
Yeah.
right? Because the only constant is change. So when the market just changed again,
Hmm.
you have to be able
Yeah.
to be agile and
Yeah.
flexible to that and not be
Yeah.
so precious about
Hmm.
whatever you created 2 years ago
Yeah.
because it doesn't align anymore, it doesn't
Yeah.
sell anymore, whatever the
Yeah.
case is.
Yeah. And that happens and it's so real, right? And I think that that's why we're moving into this space of like, it's no longer just thinking of your brain as like the control center, but really realizing how much intelligence we have outside of that, how much
Mhm.
intelligence we have at the nervous system level, at the somatic level, at the like, when we talk about collaboration, right? About the like the universal consciousness level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's everything. So I want to talk about the Gabby edit
Mm,
because when you shared it with me, I was like, this is phenomenal. And it's such an aligned match to this evolution of you and who you are, like, whatever day we're recording this, December 1st, 2025, right?
mhm.
So tell me about the Gabby edit.
It's so funny because when we had, you're like the first person I think I shared it with. So for everybody who is listening, I created sort of, I really thought about what's like this next stage of what I'm doing. And what is it that I want to share and what's the medium that I want to share it in? And kind of what I landed on was this e-zine, like a digital magazine idea, because there's so much that you just have to experience in that way. You just have to experience it as a piece of media, right? Because it's storytelling and it's also visuals and it's also just the feeling of the thing. And you have to, I think the thing with like, for me, my focus is subconscious marketing and my focus is subconscious communication and how we create buy-in and how all of these things, right? Not just the words and not just the brain and not just, but how we like experience content and ideas and messages as a full body experience.
Yes.
And so I was really thinking about it. And I was actually talking to Jordan Duvall, who is amazing. And I met her in Through Your World. I met her in Mind Magic, maybe Elevate Experience. No, I met her on the VIP day of Mind Magic
Yes.
because I did
Yes.
Mind Magic VIP.
Yes. Yes.
And we met, and she was actually funny enough, like exactly the person that I was looking for at exactly that moment. I had found her on Pinterest before we had this call, which is like such
Crazy.
a synchronicity. And we ended up working together on my first branding shoot, my second branding shoot, and she's amazing. And so I talked to her and I was like, I really wanted to be this magazine experience. And so I kind of talked through it with her and she was like, well, cool, but what do you want it to do? And I was like, well, I want it to be like the first thing that people experience when they come into my world. I wanted to live on my website. I want to send it when I'm like, going to speak somewhere or pitch myself to a podcast or maybe sign a new client, right? I want them to experience my work at this level because I feel like content isn't doing it anymore. And like, I could maybe make a YouTube channel, but it's like, it's just so much effort to deliver what this could deliver in such a quick burst. So I created it. I sent it to you. I think the first person, and I'm just absolutely in love with it.
Yes, it's going to be amazing. And we're going to put the link in the show notes so you guys can all download it. What kind of things can we get excited about finding in the Gaby edit?
Yes. Okay. So for me, the biggest step of this next evolution was stepping out of subconscious marketing as just a means of marketing and really embracing it as a structure for communication, for better communication of bigger ideas, creating bigger buy-in, creating more emotional connection. So initially it was a lot about, selling programs. I had my program QSQ, and it was very much about creating honeypot posts that would get people to sign up to work with you or join your masterclass and all of these kinds of things. It was great for entrepreneurs and it made so much impact. And what I realized is that I was ready for more. I was ready to really help these women become cultural authorities and create these cultural moments where it wasn't just what they were selling or what their work was, but it was about how can you communicate those ideas that feel almost too big for words? How can you create that buy-in that regular marketing alone compartmentalizes and just makes way too small? And how can we take these conversations, not just from entrepreneurship, but to bigger arenas like relationships and cultural impact, politics, all of these bigger spaces where, they don't think about these things the same way that maybe we do as inner work kind of people, right? They're not seeing the same things that we're seeing. They're still communicating using these binary ways of, it's either polarizing or it's patronizing. And how can we really create content and impact that lands, not just with our audience and the women who think like us, but also people who might not be there yet.
I love that so much because that's real contribution. And that's what just came through my body as you were sharing that. Like that's real. It's not the, I'll call it limited marketing lens that says, what do I need to communicate or say to get someone to do X? Like that already is lack scarcity, right? We're not hitting it there. But what's the contribution? And that's what you're articulating in your evolution and the Gaby edit and the way that you're operating now. This is a contribution that will open eyes, change conversations, make impact in a way that is far more holistic, right?
Exactly.
Which then serves the collective at its highest and best.
Exactly. And the Gaby edit, it's really the story of that evolution. It's the story of how does that happen? How did we as a culture get ready for this?
Yeah.
How did we open ourselves up? How did we heal enough collectively, right? To allow for this means of deeper communication and deeper connection and deeper collaboration to come through. And so it's a series of, different articles and cultural forecasting and trend casting, right? About what's next and where we are now and having deeper conversations than a lot of people are having in this space.
Yeah, I love that. And I also love that about us because we love a good deep, give us a fireside chat and a pair of
We
pajamas
do.
and we'll solve the problems of the world. I love it. Okay. The work you've done inside the School of Becoming in all the iterations, what would you say to the woman who's listening to us that is considering coming into the School of Becoming to tap into her next level? What would you want to say to her about the work you've done with me inside the programs, the community, the women you've met? What do you want her to know?
I I feel like I always describe working with you as like plugging in. Like you will just plug into something that will make you believe in yourself, but also give you permission, right? Like when we talk about the Gabby edit and we talk about this easy and we talk about shifting from entrepreneurship and marketing into bigger cultural conversations, and we talk about shaping actual culture, right? Not just the world of entrepreneurship, but politics and the way that we think and the way that we approach communication and family and relationships and all of these bigger things that actually have so much more impact than our little bubble, right? You need to be in spaces that can hold the bigness of that because not every space can, right? And I think that that's one of the first lessons that you learn when you come online is how compartmentalized things tend to be, right? There are spaces that are great for when you want to grow a seven-figure business using a ton of strategy and this very specific strategy,
Yeah.
right? And then there are spaces that are going to kind of urge you to put that on the back burner and really show up as, it's really about the ideas and, thought leadership and content creation. And so it's hard to have spaces that focus on you, right? That focus on you and give you permission to be all of who you are. And this is all of who I am, right? This is my specific focus. This is my specific purpose. This is what I am here to share is, how to really create your iconic moments and how to have your moments of cultural authority and really insert yourself in these conversations and step out as these leaders. But what I love about your world is that everybody is doing it in their own way. Like, so this is mine, right? And Jordan's is a specific thing, and every single person in that space is on their own journey and on their own evolution and becoming the best version of themselves, but it looks different for everyone. And I think that that's the funnest part of being in your world is how diverse, right? Diverse in thought, diverse in ambition, diverse in perspective, the people in there are.
Yeah, I love that. And I feel like that's such an honor because I'm here to break lots of myths about this industry. Like I have a lot of rants and raves in me, as you know, like when I talk about imposter syndrome as the lie or things that I'll die on the hill over. But one of the things is when it's our responsibility in this space to make sure that individuals know that they are their own gurus and that they are here to understand what sovereignty really is and what their uniqueness really is. And that this is not about becoming like someone else, especially not like the leader of whatever community or the coach or the mentor or whoever is the guide, but to make sure you're cultivating the individualism that then allows the collective to thrive because everyone is then tapped into their codes, their light, their uniqueness, whatever word you want to use. And it's in that there's truth.
Yeah.
And the truth is then the thing that like the ripple effect starts to, it's like massive and it turns into wave because we're doubling down on the uniqueness that makes us each who we are.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so I have my final question, and this is like you may close your eyes if you want, because I want you to like get mushy in this message. Imagine that every woman, entrepreneur, founder at every level is attentively listening right now. I'm handing you a megaphone. You have 30 seconds, and they are ready to listen. What do you want them to hear?
The speed of culture over the next couple of decades, over the next couple of years, is moving so much faster than we are prepared to move. And that inner work is more important than ever. But not just that, this is the first time, probably in history, absolutely in your lifetime, that all of the dreams that once upon a time felt like they were too much or completely impossible, or how can I even do this, are now actually small. They are too small, and I want that to land. All of the dreams that you thought were too big are actually now too small. There's no way to even foresee what is possible when you show up in alignment with yourself and in alignment with the world around you, and allow yourself to take the kind of risks that allow for true innovation and true leadership and true quantum leaping, right? Because there's no other word for it. And if we all collectively took that risk, allowed ourselves to have that level of impact, the things that we would create would be so beautiful and new and incredible. And I think that we would really not just blow our own minds, but blow the minds of those little girls that were told that they were dreaming too big, or that what they wanted was impossible, or that they had to do it in XYZ format. All of that is out the window. And it's time for us to upgrade our systems to allow that truth in. Because the girls today, they're growing up knowing that. But women like us, we have a different subconscious. And so we need to learn, we need to grow, we need to evolve in order to really see the impact that's possible for us.
Oh, that was fucking glorious. And I can't wait for you to listen to that back, because you don't even know half of what you just said. Okay. Okay. You're a very lucky listener. That was like gorgeous. Channeled truth from Gaby Abrams. Okay. Where can everyone find you? Of course, we'll put Gaby Edit in the show notes, but where do we hang out?
So my website is gabyabrams.com, and that's a great place to get sort of the first step into the Gaby universe. My Instagram is gabby.abrams, and then I have a Facebook group called Ready for More that you can join. And I'd love to see you guys in there.
Amazing. We're going to put all of the links in the show notes. Gaby, thank you, thank you, thank you. I love seeing you and being with you every time for every reason. And this was awesome.
Hey, thank you so much.
Okay, beautiful souls. We will see you again next time on our next conversation on the School of Becoming podcast. And until then, remember, there is always more love.
I love it.